Oh, your goshes. Alright. Arm bars, rear naked chokes, anaconda chokes, guillotines, knockouts, technical knockouts, submissions. These are all terms that we're getting more and more familiar with. Quickly becoming one of the most popular sports in the world, mixed martial arts has taken on many forms that can be seen in the UFC. Today I would like to define the rules and regulations in the that are used currently in the UFC. I personally love mixed martial arts and participate regularly in a no-gi jiu-jitsu class from the Gracie Baca Academy in Chino Hills, California. To help you better understand the current rules and regulations of the UFC, I will go over a brief history of the UFC, including the much needed of enforcing of more rules, and how it started, the different weight classes, how fights are finished and determined, and fouls that are committed during a fight. The UFC, or the Ultimate Fighting Championship, is a mixed martial arts company that homes some of the greatest fighters in the world. The UFC was greatly inspired by Vale Tudo tournaments from Brazil. Vale Tudo, translated in Portuguese, means everything goes. The first UFC tournament was held in 1993 in Denver, Colorado, and now UFC fights are hosted all over the world, including many of the states here in the United States. When the UFC first started, there were very few rules. Headbutting, hair pulling, and attacking of the groin were all legal moves when the UFC first started. There was no mouth guards required. They didn't even use padded gloves. It was basically a bare knuckle brawling fight. And because of the intenseness of the original UFC fights, many people wanted to ban the sport altogether, not even calling it a sport, but more an exhibition, just something to check out. It is for this reason, the intensity and severity of the original fights, that more regulations were instituted to the UFC. Senator John McCain was quoted as calling the UFC in its primitive state, we'll say, as human cockfighting. They said that they knew that something serious was going on, as in when the first UFC happened and a competitor got kicked in the teeth as one of his teeth literally flew out of his mouth. They knew that they had broken new ground, so instead of making it just an exhibition and some dirty backstreet brawling, they wanted to turn it into a sport and make it more watchable to the public view. Because of the content, the much needed use for regulations were instituted. This is why the UFC decided to enforce more rules and are currently using the Unified Rules of Mixed Martial Arts that can be found on MMAmemories.com. One of the big rules that were introduced was the use of weight classes. In the original UFC, there were no weight classes. Somebody who weighed 155 pounds could easily be matched up against a man who weighed 330 pounds. And that was a regular fight, and it happened on a regular basis. Many of you may have heard of Hoist Gracie. He was in the first UFC, and he didn't weigh much, and he would fight against men who almost doubled his weight. The UFC currently uses these 5 weight classes, starting with the lightweight division that goes from 146 pounds to 155 pounds. The welterweight division, which goes from 156 pounds to 170 pounds. The middleweight division, which is 171 pounds to 185 pounds. The light heavyweight division, 186 pounds to 205 pounds. And the last weight is the heavyweight, which is the 206 to the 265 pounds. This made things a lot better for the UFC because they were able to pair people up, and it wasn't as much as an advantage from one to the other. one of the next things in determining a fight, the next part in determining a fight are the different ways that they can be finished. There are submissions, knockouts, and technical knockouts. This obviously is an example of a knockout. This also is, well, soon to be a knockout, and this is a submission. Submissions occur when a fighter clearly taps out, either by tapping the mat or by tapping on the opponent, or by verbal submission. The other way a fight is finished is by a knockout, and this is when a fighter is put into a state of unconsciousness. A technical knockout is either when a referee stops it because either a competitor is bleeding too much or they can't properly defend themselves, or doctor stoppage when they're just bleeding too much and it is they're just at their own risk. I didn't want to put any of those pictures on here because, well, it could be found pretty gruesome. But you can look those up on any MMA website. They're up and going. And the last one is corner stoppage, when a competitor is no longer able to physically compete. They either throw in the towel, but the towel must not be thrown while they are in the moment of competing. The final part of determining fights and the rules and regulations of a fight are the fouls that are committed. Since taking on the new rules of for the UFC, fouls include headbutting, eye gouging, biting, hair pulling, groin attacks of any kind, small joint manipulation, which is basically taking a finger or a toe and twisting it or pulling it. That's not allowed. After that, strikes to the spine or the back of the head are not allowed, and kicking or kneeing an opponent while he is in the ground is also a foul. And points can be taken off from the scorecard and can possibly determine a fighter losing the fight. Now that you know a brief history of the UFC, the weight divisions, how a fight is determined, and the fouls that are committed, I hope maybe you find some interest in the subject and go and look it up. And go to your nearest UFC gyms. There are many gyms that are up and coming, and they will not only get you in great physical strength, but prepare you for what may happen. And that's it.
All right, Sergio, what did you think?
I think you had a really clear and clever intro. Tied in really good with his thesis, which is also very easy to understand. I love the way he connected his personal life with this topic. Gave great background information on the UFC itself to kind of familiarize the audience with the topic. His first transition was good. I noted it was good, so he followed through very well. He had a great tell of the evolution of the UFC, which again helped the audience familiarize itself with the topic. Second transition into the second topic was even better than the first. I love the way he explained the different weight classes and the rules. His example of Gracie, I think, could have been more detailed. It was a great example, though. Fit really well with that particular point. See here, the first visual I think he gave was very connected very well with the content of his speech and the point he was trying to make. And that was, I think, with the weight classes. And he again connected it well by listing the importance of the weight classes bringing balance to matchups. The third transition was a little direct. I think he said before with another one of the speeches, it was kind of boring. It's just like really direct. He knew he was switching up because he said he was going to switch up to another topic. Submissions, great images. Again, broke down to the audience exactly what he was talking about. And he explained each one of them very thoroughly. The fourth transition was another good one, and he ended it well with a nice sales pitch for the entire MMA thing. It was good. I liked it.
I feel